Here we go. How about we start with c4? I think I did e4 and d4 recently. Oh, we get a symmetric English. Okay. You know, I played this knight here instead of the other knight, so I can't I can't go for the Botvinnik setup. Although I'm sure this is a very standard way of playing. Maybe I can go e3 and d4 here. Build up a bigger expansion. He's going to get black is going to get a good bishop there. e3, d4, takes, knight takes, bishop takes, queen takes. Yeah, I can do that technically. Let's go ahead and do it. Yeah, pretty evenly rated here. Anyway, I'll just have a little more space on the center. Oh, he has an extra center pawn, though, so maybe he can get in the push e5 at some point. We'll see. Well, this is well defended here. I don't want the knight hopping in here, so let's push the h-pawn. The king can step up to defend it, like so. Then bishop e3 and queen d2 is my plan. See if I can get rid of his strong bishop, and then maybe start trying to push his knights around. Well, at least black's paused to think here. Oh, he's going to try and get in f5, it looks like. f5, f4, I can just take it, I guess. So he goes there. Let's continue with my setup here. If he takes, I can just take back. Knight takes, bishop takes, bishop takes. Yeah, I've got it covered. It's going to leave him with a weak d-pawn here. If he takes, he doesn't have to take. Yeah, he chose not to. Okay, so now I can play bishop to h6, and I think I will. He's hitting this pawn, though. Maybe this time I'll defend the pawn. Back up just a second. Okay, yeah. I mean, he unleashed a double attack with this move on the pawn. Both the queen and the knight were hitting it. And I was wondering if I had left it unguarded, but I think that was just... Okay, so he plays there. I think if I get rid of the bishop, then I don't have to spend a move pulling the rook off of this diagonal. Although the rook does want to be off that diagonal. Did I? Yeah, he blundered. I missed that. He blundered the exchange here. Boom. Could have just taken it. Instead, I played that move. He noticed that his rook was hanging. Anyway, still okay for me, but that's pretty silly to miss that. So if I just play knight here, and then this is immediately hanging. Play knight here, he can take it, or here. I think just putting the knight back here, let's ask him how he intends to defend that pawn. The problem is, he can take, I take, and then he grabs this pawn. I grab this pawn. So it's just a trade. because it pulls my bishop away from the defense here of the h-pawn. So he goes there first. So I have to take here. There was a trick taking there with the check, forking my king and queen. So I had to do it in that order. He needs to retreat his bishop or trade it off. And that just loses the bishop. Okay, so he brought his queen in. I've got 2 pieces and he has 1, basically. That's the difference here. Play knight here to hit his queen. I guess that's a good spot. I was also considering offering the queen trade, which is probably winning if he takes it, but it would mess up my pawns and maybe it'd be a little more difficult than it looked. Here, this would be a good queen trade offer right here. Where can his queen come out? Yeah, it can't come out on that diagonal. It's got to stay in touch with this pawn because that goes with check. So I guess he has to play queen there. Oh, he didn't. I don't know, maybe I should move the knight. Well, I can check first and then move the knight, right? I guess he will push. He didn't do that. I thought he might push the pawn. Okay, let's do this check. This is pretty convenient. Get rid of that lurking knight over there. Open up his king side. If he didn't take, I would take him. It would mess up his pawns over here. So yeah, let's activate this rook. Okay. I have an idea here. After the queen moves, he's hitting this pawn. But if I play bishop here, and he takes the bishop, I have queen here, checkmate. So he can't take it. And I am just threatening to crash through on f7 here. Interesting. But bishop takes pawn with check. However he takes back, I can take his rook. King can't move. Yeah, he had to take that. Yeah, actually, this was going to be a forced mate, just to show you. So the king has no move, so the bishop has to be taken, and I can take here. I mean, this was also hanging, but this is mate. There or there. Okay, so that was a nice one. A nice win anyway. I don't know if the game as a whole was nice, but yeah, let's play a rapid game now. Ramil, Mr. Suave, 1984. Okay. This one might be a tough one. Let's see if he's going to play the first move. There he goes. Should I go for a Grinfeld or just a... I think I'll just do a Nimzo-Indian this time. I think I did a Grinfeld not too long ago. Oh, and he lets me do the Nimzo-Indian. Yeah. Nice. Thank you, Mr. Suave. Very friendly of you. So this is the Kasparov system with the bringing the knight out there. I play the Rubinstein variation. And then there's the classical variation with queen there. So this is an interesting way to play. This pawn is... Well, since it's not defended with a pawn, I like to push the c pawn forward and just take there. Weakens his center. Now he puts his pawn there. Okay. So I can still take, or I can leave it hanging for a bit and just castle. The knight is still pinned. I don't have to do anything with this bishop until he kicks it. Now the question is, what happens when I play knight to c6 to put more pressure on this pawn? Can he push it forward? If he pushes it forward, I take, he takes, and my knight is hanging, and this is no longer pinned. So what I like to do in cases like that is play the d6 move first, so that that pawn, even if it comes forward one step, I can move the knight away, and it does not keep charging forward. Get the knight out. Now, am I really threatening to take here? Let's see. Pawn takes, knight takes, knight takes. Yeah, I'm not really winning anything if I take there. It's just a trade. So let's go ahead and play this way. Get maximum pressure on d4. And also opening up a diagonal for this bishop. Now sometimes the knight can go this way to put pressure on this pawn. But I always preferred to play with the knight going over to the king side now. Now I've got the bishop and the knight, and both knights over here, and this light squared bishop focused on this direction. And one of these days, I'll trade off this bishop for one of his minor pieces. So I will be very focused on the king side. What to do here? I could play bishop to f4, hitting his queen. f5, I mean. He would probably block with the bishop. I take, he takes. Or I push the pawn. Hey, this gets interesting. Bishop here, bishop here. I push the pawn. Knight takes. Knight takes, bishop takes, bishop takes. Oh, this is not hanging at the end. Okay, so bishop here, bishop here. If I push the pawn, he can take immediately with the knight. So I would have to take the knight next. And when I take the knight, he could take my bishop. I take his bishop, hitting the queen takes back, and then I save my bishop. Yeah, I think that works out in my favor. And we'll see if Mr. Suave agrees with me. He could also just move his queen. But then I'll have control of this e4 square, which would be useful, maybe. After the queen moves. If I push the pawn immediately, the knight could come out here to harass my bishop. So, oh, I pushed that pawn forward. Okay. That's a better way of stopping my plans here. So if I take the knight, he takes back, then I could take here. So that means when I take the knight, he will take the bishop. I will take the bishop, he will take back. And he'll have a pawn here that I can target. If he just takes back immediately, then that just loses this pawn. So he had to take my bishop, I think. Then I can continue trading. Could retreat. I think it's in my interest to get rid of that bishop so that white no longer has the bishop pair. It's one of white's advantages. And he had to take with the knight in order to keep the queen defending this pawn. So here, just attack the pawn. Putting a rook on the e-file was certainly an idea here too. But this pawn actually is kind of a thorn in my side, really, because it stops this guy from developing. So that pawn, even though it's an isolated pawn, or a doubled pawn, not isolated. So he can defend it by playing g4 if he wants to hold on to it. Maybe that makes sense, because it is restricting my pieces here. But that will weaken his king side quite a bit. So he goes there. Now I could push this pawn. Knight takes, knight takes. Yeah, not really happening there. How about if I play g6? He takes, I take back, and then I can at least develop this knight. If he doesn't take, I'll take here with a knight. Bishop takes, queen takes, pawn takes. My pawns will be a bit messed up, but my with the queen's off, my king will be safe enough, and I'll have more pawns in the center. Is that a good deal, or should I change direction to the queen side and try and distract him over here? I think this is the way to play it. See how he responds. Let's see. Well, one way to get my knight into the game is to lift my king up here and then bring this knight around like this. Yeah, I'm not sure where it goes from there. So we'll see what he does. I just was starting to think again, maybe he can just play g4 and defend the pawn, but that doesn't work in this case because my knight can take it. It's no longer defended by the bishop. So he takes that way. So my plan was to take back this way and open up the file for my rook. Open up a line for my knight so I can bring the other rook over here. So yeah, he spotted that idea. Just he's going to try and blockade this pawn now. I guess it still makes sense for me to bring my rook over here. So he's going to try and bust up my center, yeah, because I do have that extra pawn there. Makes some sense. And if I push it, he just takes it, so that's a sacrifice. Have to see if that's really valid. I don't see that that's really valid. I don't like this. It's helping him double his rooks, but I think I have to take. Well, one thing is that he does have a loose rook here. So if I could move here with tempo. So I go here, he takes the knight, I take the rook. I go here, he takes the rook, I take the rook. He can take another rook, I can take back. I think I can do this. Is that the best tactic here? I mean, I also have this knight, but that's not such a tactic. He takes here with check. So let's try this again. Knight takes pawn, pawn takes, rook, check. That's pretty straightforward, and I'm just up an exchange. Knight takes knight, rook takes rook. I take his rook. If he just moves his rook, I'll take his rook, so that at least wins the exchange. So knight takes pawn, rook takes rook, knight takes rook. It's his move. His rook is hanging. He can either take or retreat, but it's just a trade either way. So I think I just win a free pawn here. And then I don't have to worry about him doubling his rooks on the f-file, because he'll only have one. Or 0, 1 or none. Yeah, I've used a lot of time and we're only on move 18, but well, I do have the increment, first of all, and then secondly, it's at a critical section. A lot of material might come off, and the rest of it won't be as difficult to play. So yeah, sometimes it's worth it investing time in these critical moments. You know, another idea, it doesn't work. Rook takes rook, queen takes rook actually threatens checkmate, but then he could move this rook and block. Well, that would also lose the exchange. I guess that would turn out about the same. Anyway, if he trades here, I'll keep that checkmate threat in mind. No, actually that's stronger, isn't it? Because the way I was thinking, rook takes rook, knight takes rook, that's just a trade. And rook takes rook, king takes rook, that's a trade. And I've got two knights versus knight and bishop, and we both have queens. So it does not win the exchange. Whereas rook takes rook, queen takes rook, threatens mate, and his rook is still hanging. And I haven't lost material. So, yeah, I can't take the knight. I'll just checkmate him. Oh, no, it's not mate. It's not mate because he has bishop and knight coming back to defend here. Okay, so don't get carried away. That's a typical mating pattern, but he has three pieces that could come back and stop the mate. So, yeah, can't let your mind be ruled by these patterns. So I think back to plan A. Rook takes rook, knight takes rook. And then he can either retreat that rook or exchange it. And then I'll have the two knights against knight and bishop. And I'll have an extra pawn here. We'll see. The knight and bishop might be better coordinated in this position. My position might be a bit awkward with the two knights lined up on the f-file. What's up with that? Well, he's decided to use some time here to figure this out. Yeah, he takes. I take. This better be right. At the end of this, I'll also take his bishop, so I guess the bishop will move. I mean, that's just an exchange, but I would be happy to get rid of that bishop and have queen and knight versus queen and knight, and I'll just be a pawn up. There is queen here, threatening the check here or here. Those checks might be useful, even if they aren't mate. Anyway, my extra pawn is a backwards pawn, so it's not like this is an overwhelming position for me or anything. But I should be better. Should be slightly better. My king's a bit out of place. Queen here threatens mate. That's an idea. Okay, so he decided to move his bishop and defend against the mate. So I can move my king. I can push the pawn. If I push the pawn, he takes, I take with either queen or knight, either knight. Then this pawn will be hanging. So maybe I will start by defending the c pawn and just preparing to push the d pawn. And then this will give me a more active pawn majority over here, not one where I have a backwards pawn. And let's see if he can take advantage of my somewhat awkward rooks there. Knights. Somewhat awkward lineup of the knights, but he doesn't have a rook to skewer them with. His only piece that could really attack them both would be the queen. Okay, so he wants to hop his knight into here, hitting my queen. As soon as I push this pawn forward, knight here, queen here, knight here looking here, 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 and here. I think I can get away with that. Yeah, so I found a way to move the queen and attack my knight. So if I just bring the queen out to defend, I can still play pawn takes and knight takes. If I go here, he can move his knight to attack my queen from there or there. I can move my queen here. He's got... Now I've got that under control. I was going to say I had bishop here, but the knight is on that. So let's just bring the queen out to defend, and depending where his knight goes, we'll see what happens next. Well, if he moves the knight. Okay, now time. Got to watch the time now. Time is getting critical. So I can't do pawn takes, queen takes, because that would hang this guy. So I have to do pawn takes, knight takes, and I don't know which knight is better. This knight's a bit exposed, but it's more forward too. It's also more aggressively posted. I guess it's better to take with this knight. If he tries to kick my knight away, I can always drop in here and hit his king. Come back here. He doesn't have to take. I'll probably just keep pushing my pawn forward. If I take it, it kind of helps his bishop develop. So he decided to kick it right away. Interesting. So check here. King steps up to defend his knight and attack my knight. And also, he's chasing my knight away from defense of this square. So I could put my queen here, hitting his knight, pinning the pawn. This knight might go here, hitting my queen. And I don't go back. And I move the knight with check. King steps up. Queen here, check is possible, but he takes the knight. And where is his knight all this time? His knight is here, though. I think it works. Knight here hitting my queen. Knight here, check. King up. Queen here, check. Oh, queen takes knight. Defends his knight. Totally did not see that. Okay, push the pawn. So I'm down a piece, and I have a protected passed pawn. And his other pawns are messed up too, but this should be better for white. Yeah, I've got a good square I can get my knight to, but maybe I can win another pawn here. No, he just pushes that forward. I take, he takes. Well, it's a combination of being low on time. I wonder if there's a trick here. Did I miss something? Anyway, yeah, I just want to get my king forward. 2 pawns for the piece. Trying to get this pawn onto a dark square. These pawns onto dark squares. Yep. Let's see if we can activate this knight a bit. So I'm wondering, yeah, if I have knight, or 2 pawns versus a knight, is that good enough? Or is that losing? He decided not to go that way. So if I move my king, can't do much. If I move my king, I lose this pawn. I don't want to lose that. So yeah, it's kind of Zugzwang. Okay, so my next hope is to see if I can eliminate all these pawns. Just two more to go. One more to go. So just move my knight over to attack that pawn. How do I do that? From here to here. I should go here first. I go here, he attacks it with his bishop. I'll step forward though. If he doesn't attack it with his bishop, I'm going to move my knight over to attack that pawn. Try and force a trade. He didn't. He did not see my idea. He can't defend that pawn. So now I've got 2 pawns. And I think there's no way he can win this at this point. And actually, I have some winning chances here. Yeah, so I can step forward with my king now. Okay, if I step forward again, he's got this. That's not a check, he's got this check. But it's the right thing to do, bring the king forward if you don't get mated. Okay, we're going to attack the knight here. Okay, so now it's pawn versus bishop. Yeah, so he just went for the draw at the end. And well, good game. I was lucky to escape with the draw, I think. But on the other hand, I had the advantage until I blundered my knight there. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you next time. Bye.